What's going on, everybody? Leo Cannell here with today's Seven Figures Club podcast. And today we've got a very special guest who originate and hails from the land up north in Canada. We've got Mark LaChance. He's an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. He's an author. Let's take a look at his bio very quickly. Mark is the CEO and lead investor of Maxi Media Inc., which is one of the largest TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, and Google Display Network performance marketing agencies. So basically, you know, most of the audience here, we're business owners, we're entrepreneurs, we're side hustlers, and there's no doubt about it that social media marketing is going to be your most powerful way to build your business, in addition to maybe a referral partner program. So Mark is someone who's going to be able to drop a lot of value bombs about that today. You're going to want to take some notes. Currently, Maxi Media is the #1 advertiser in terms of monthly spend on the TikTok platform in Canada, and he's top 10 in North America. He's the author of the soon-to-be-released book, The Lucky Formula, and later on he's going to tell us about a little quiz to find out just how lucky you are and you know how you can actually control a little bit of your own luck. So he also founded Evo Payments International Canada, and he's just done a lot of amazing things, including most recently, he actually moved to the U.S. very recently. So Mark, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you and learn from your breadth of knowledge.
There are over 32 million businesses in the U.S., and over 90% of them will never break 7 figures in annual sales. So how do we as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs break into that 7 figures club? This podcast will relentlessly share the secrets, strategies, and tactics I've used to create 3 multi-7 figures businesses and bring in even more successful entrepreneurs than me to share their inspirational stories and tactics to success. You can create your dream business and life right now. So buckle up and let's go.
All right. So, you know, this show is all about, you know, how can you get into the top 5% of businesses in America, break that 7 figures boundary and generate $1 million a year with your business, with your side hustle, and eventually make it your full-time career in business. So the first thing we like to do in these shows is dig a little deeper and find out about your background. What was it growing up in your upbringing you think that led you eventually down that path of entrepreneurship?
Well, look, I came from I'm not going to say a poor background, but my father was a hustler for sure. But he came from a farming family. He came from Eastern Quebec, and they moved to the United States back in '65, a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
And so the whole family moved. My grandfather moved with the 8 kids from a farm to a place called Lewiston, Maine. And they got in the construction and the lumberjacking industry. So, you know, not exactly an academic family. And so I kind of fell into the construction space when I was a kid. My father would bring me out of the job site, and because of what happened to him in '87, stock market crash, real estate market crash, he lost it all. So I had to go to work to pay for my college. And you know, that kind of not only that, so construction taught me that I didn't want to do construction for sure. Construction taught me,
good lesson.
Gave me the massive why to never want to be on that roof in 102-degree weather, you know, frying my butt off up on top of that roof. So that's kind of the start. But really before that, my father was always an entrepreneur. And he gave us the first book he gave me and my 2 brothers was a book called Think and Grow Rich. And I'm pretty sure every single entrepreneur that you have on your podcast has read that book. So that's kind of the foundation. That's right. So that's kind of my foundation in how I was motivated to be an entrepreneur.
How awesome is that? Dang, I wish my dad would have given me that book. I didn't read that book until I was, I want to say 31 years old, a little bit lost, and really helped me get back on track. So I'm not surprised. What a great gift that your father gave you. So you're telling me, Mark, that in college, you actually worked your butt off to pay for college.
I did. The government didn't give me money to go to school. Right? So
I'm just curious,
Yeah.
Mark, how important do you think that is to actually work to pay for your college instead of taking out all these monstrous student loans that most people do?
Look, well, here's the thing. My brother has 2 kids that are going to 3 kids actually.
Wow.
And 2 of them now are going to university. And one of them luckily got a full ride to play hockey. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But the other, he's paying $80,000 a year.
Oh,
So he actually, he did well. My brother had a hockey playing career. I think he made over $20 million over his career, but he lived the lifestyle, pay the taxes. He still has to take out a loan. He has no choice. How are you going to finance $80,000 a year? Yeah. And you got another kid that's in prep school at $50,000 a year. So the numbers are just ridiculous. Oh, and which, I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole of talking about, is school useful to entrepreneurs and blah, blah, blah. I can tell you my opinion on that. But the point is, yeah. I think now you have to. I mean, but when I was growing up, my college was, I went to Bentley University in Boston, and that cost $15,000 a year. So yeah. I could work my butt off and pay it down and have zero debt. So I graduated with zero debt, right? But today, how do you do it with $80,000 in annual premiums? I just don't know.
You know, it's funny. I was just looking at statistics and some graphs, and they were showing from 1980 that inflation had gone up like maybe 224%, something like that, since 1980 till now in the U.S. And also during that time, college had increased 1,184%. So for significantly more than the 224% of, actual costs of housing and food and energy and clothing that it costs to live. Like, it's literally 4 times more has been the inflated cost of colleges and universities. And obviously, I think we can all agree the value that they're delivering has not achieved that result, because incomes have gone from about $20,000 a year in median income to $54,000, so about 2.5 times that, but or actually just 142% increase versus 1,184% of the cost of college, which is just absolutely crazy. But, I think there's something really important you learned there. By working and paying for college, it meant more. And I think it laid the foundations,
Agreed,
for your life. So after college, what was your next step in your career, and how did you eventually, start that first business?
Well, the first step, my brother, like I said, he was a high draft pick. He was drafted 4th overall by the New York Islanders.
Wow.
in ice hockey, right? So,
yeah.
We played hockey growing up. My other brother was drafted in the 5th or 6th round by the St. Louis Blues. So through them, I met a ton of agents and scouts and other players. And it was through that agent courting process that my middle brother was getting courted by a gentleman by the name of Don Meehan. And I liked the process. I thought it was pretty awesome. And I decided when I was a junior in college that, look, I'm going to become a sports agent. Yeah. That's exactly what I did when I got out of school. So I was able to work for my father during the week, on the roof, and then on the weekends become a sports agent. So basically drive to Boston, drive all over the Northeast, drive to Canada, recruiting players up and down the East Coast. And then once I was able to build that enough to be full-time, which I had at the height of that practice, I had 7 NHL players and I had 35 minor leaguers working their way up to the top. So it was a pretty good practice, but that was my first foray into entrepreneurship, if you will.
That's awesome. So you get in as a sports agent, not full-time, eventually get it to full-time. How does it work for those who don't understand the process of becoming a sports agent? How do you make money? How much can you make? And how difficult is it to, achieve that kind of success? I mean, 7 NHL players under contract, that you're a pivotal part of that, obviously a very big deal and very big business. How do sports agents, how does that work?
Well, I would say that if you're getting into the business today, you have to work for it, which I did. So I started working for a bigger agency. So I don't know if you remember, if you're a hockey fan, Leo, there's a gentleman by the name of Ray Bork who was a superstar in the Northeast. So I started working for his agent, and that got me, I learned the business, got credibility through that. I had my brothers, obviously, and I was able to leverage them and meet other players. But it's a flat out sales job. And I'm not doing that business today for many, many, many reasons, but travel's brutal, and you better be singing a better song than the next guy, or your client's going to get stolen away like I did to many others. So I didn't like the business, the travel, and the feeling of how do you build a business, but it's basically, I have to take other clients from other people. I mean, that's really the only way to build the business. And it kind of wore on me over time. So, but if you want to get into
business, let me ask you a quick question. Business, like your ability to create a sexy offer reflecting your product or service is to be a huge part of succeeding in business. And so if you're a sports agent, what does a sexy offer look like in terms of why me as a professional NHL player would go with you as my sports agent? Like, how do you set yourself apart? And what did you learn about creating a sexy offer about yourself that helped you in some of your future businesses?
Well, it's hustle in the beginning. I was everywhere all the time. So I was all over the East Coast in the university rinks, in the minor league hockey rinks, at practices, at games. I was all over the place. So the Northeast is a perfect place because all the NHL teams, the top teams have their farm teams in the Northeast. So I was able to travel within let's say a 3-hour radius. There are about 15 teams that I can hit. So I could in the morning at a practice, at another game at night, in the middle. Sometimes prep schools had a game. So it's hustle, pure hustle. And if you're there all the time, because every agent can't be there. I mean, it's just, if you have, so for example, at the height, I had 45 clients. So how can you see 45 clients all the time? You just can't. So you differentiate yourself by hustle. That's it. And then once you get older and you have the superstar names, it's differentiating yourself by negotiating massive contracts, which is how I grew from, a little organization to a bigger one.
Awesome. All right. So you've got this, you get into sports agent, you're working for a big firm. You eventually kind of build your own practice. Things are going well. What led you? And this is an important distinction, because a lot of us, sometimes we get into a business, we chase an opportunity, and at some point there's the need to pivot and go a different direction, a different industry, a different profession. How did you know it was time to go a different direction, and what direction did you go?
That's kind of driven sometimes by financial gain or financial loss. So it was, I think the year was 1997 or 1998. I lost 2 of my key clients within 1 year. So 30% of my revenue out the window. And I was but it was a point where I had literally wiped their backs. So you're a glorified babysitter. So anybody's listening, it's not as sexy as you think it is. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, but over time you're a glorified babysitter. So one of the guys I literally did everything for, lent his brother money, negotiated an awesome deal, and I still get fired at the end of the year. And the other guy, because somebody else was whispering a better story than me, then he went with the other guy. So anyway, I lost 2 key clients and 30% of my revenue. At the same time, I met a guy in the payment space. And this guy was making, at the time, he was making about $25,000 to $30,000 a month recurring. In 1997, 98, back then, that's huge money, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I looked at his business and I said, he had 2,000 clients. If he lost 2, 3, 10, 20, it didn't matter, right? Because it's recurring. He's making $150 per client per month across, 2 or 3,000 clients that he had. So I was like, this is an amazing business. I quickly learned, and I think probably, Leo, you're in the real estate game probably. So it's a lot like real estate, right? You're getting recurring revenue. It's predictable. It's coming in every single month. So I was like, wow, this is a way better business than me having to hump all over the world to get fired by 2 of my clients that I did everything for and no diversification. So that's exactly why I pivoted into payments.
And this is right at the time as PayPal is beginning to launch, and there's a lot of opportunity and disruption in the payments arena. And I kind of look at it as an example of, let's take real estate, for example. Well, I can have 3 or 4 single family homes and maybe making decent rent. But if I lose one of those, all of a sudden, like you said, big kick in the butt. I just lost 25, 30% of my revenue. But if I have a bunch of apartment buildings and I've got dozens of units, I can lose a few units and it does not impact my bottom line near as much. And so what about that difference between like this enormous pressure? You have to keep getting more clients, more NHL players, versus if you have thousands and you're making, recurring revenue on a monthly basis, like how much more stable did that feel for you as you transitioned into that business?
Amazingly stable. I mean, I didn't have to worry that we would lose a client. I mean, look, nobody likes losing clients, but because, we're entrepreneurs, we're winners, we like to win. But if we lost one, it was not a big deal. But if I lost one in the sports game, it was a huge deal, right? So I like to again, you said it all, right? Diversification in terms of revenue, in terms of client base, and it's much more stable and predictable revenue.
Like it. Now, tell us about, so you'd been in that industry for a while, you'd seen a lot of success. At some point, you found Evo Payments International Canada. Tell us about that story and that journey.
Well, that's an interesting story because so my first payments company, I sold that one in 1999. Learned a huge lesson on market crashes and how that affects your stock.
Oh, no, you sold that right before the
Perfect
dot-com
timing.
bubble burst.
Exactly. But the problem was I was a young executive, we'll call it.
Yeah.
I made an asset sale, and it was an asset sale for stock in a company, and the stock was locked up. Therefore, you
couldn't sell it for a while.
Sell anything. So I was left with a $40,000 tax bill. That's what that was the best deal. And then, so after that, I got an opportunity to move to Montreal and start a company called Pivotal Payments, which today is an $8 billion company. So I'll tell you that story. Wow. But anyway, so I was the third person of the company, EVP of sales. And we grew that from when I started in 2001, September 10th, 2001, crazy day, is when I moved to Canada. It was September 10th, 2001. We grew that from three people to 240 people within 2 years quickly. And it was hyper growth. And then I exited there in 2006. And here's a funny side note. I'm
guessing that was a better exit than the previous one.
Oh yeah, no. It was very profitable, but the shares that I sold in 2006 today are worth $2 billion.
No kidding.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the founder, the guy's a genius, flat out genius hustler. So I knew he would do well, but I wanted to strike out on my own. In 2006, I have my winnings and I have all the cash that I made up until then, several $1 million, which I rolled all into real estate. That's a good year to roll into real estate, isn't it? Crushed, man. I got crushed in 2007. So in 2007, verge of bankruptcy, literally, pennies to my name. I got an opportunity. I said, I have to get back into the game that I know, which is payments. So I'd been in payments for almost a decade at that time. And I knew how to make money. I knew how to build a sales team. I knew how to sell. I knew how to make it happen. So I ended up on my, with that financial gun to your head. I called my buddy in New York and I spilled my guts. I said, his name's Todd. I said, Todd, listen, I need help right now. I'm basically bankrupt and I need to get back into the payment space because that's what I know. And that's what I know how to make money with. He's like, what? He was floored that I was in that position because a few years earlier, I was riding high with a lot of cash in the pocket. But anyway, he got me in touch with these guys from New York who had just closed a deal with a Canadian bank. And so there was an opportunity to get equity in a company and to run it, which was huge. So I would have been checked all the boxes. Look, equity, I run my own shop in the space that I knew. The problem was I didn't have $200,000 to invest in the game, which I needed. So I had to get creative and borrow money for shares that I didn't even own yet. But it worked out. So I was able to raise the cash, get into the game, and that's Evo Payments, right? So we grew that for 10 years and I sold that from 2009 to 2016. So what is that? That's 7 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
And I had a very good exit in 2016. So that's kind of my resurgence and bounce back from colossal failure.
That is what an amazing roller coaster ride. So let's go back to that first one that you were building, and you were the number 3 in the company. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I have to be the number 1. I'm going to be the number 1. I'm going to found this and then grow it from there. And especially if you've never done that, how important is it for people that are trying to get in entrepreneurship, trying to get it, to understand that you can be number 3, you can be number 6, number 10, and do very well. And then in the future, actually become the number 1 after you've seen the build out. How important do you think that was for you to be not the number 1, but the number 3? And then how that led you to success to be a number 1?
I think it's hugely important because I wasn't ready, number 1, to be I thought I was. I thought, you always have that ego, and I'll get into a philosophy I have called the entrepreneur's dilemma. But anyway, you have an ego and you think you can do it, but there's nothing wrong with being number 2, number 3, number 5, 10, like you said, in learning the business, right? So a great example is our chief operating officer right now. He was not even number 3. He was number 7 in the business. And he earned, because the guy's a workhorse, he started off as just, a media buyer. And now he's the chief operating officer. 3 or 4 years later, he has a good chunk of equity in the business. And when we sell, this guy's going to do well. So you don't need to be number one, number two, number three, but you need to have work ethic, and you need to have an ability to learn and be creative and be a good person and blah, blah, blah. So you'll move up if you partner with the right people. Now, here's a good tip for you. So I'm looking at a book on my bookshelf right there called The Star Principle by Richard Koch. So if you're not that entrepreneur, if you're not that number one, use the principles in that book, because what he does tell you is find an industry that's growing by 10 to 30% a year and a company that's growing by the same. And if you do, you're going to be set up.
Oh, right? That's brilliant.
Absolutely. So the Star Principle, Richard Koch, Koch. You got to get that book.
Okay, guys, The Star Principle by Richard Koch. Great book. Look that one up. And what a great formula. Find an industry growing by 10 to 30% every year. Now go find an early company doing that. Exactly. Get on board, get some equity, earn it, be a workhorse, and get that exit. So this is so incredible. So you exit out in 2006, get a great, healthy payout. And then you're like, well, where's the best place I can put my money? Oh, real estate's had the best track record forever. I'm going to put it all into real estate. Funny, I actually did the same thing in 2006. So you do that, put millions of dollars into real estate. And literally, what is it, a year, 2 years later, all of that is completely worthless, right?
Yeah. About a year and a half later. So here's a funny story for you. Yeah. You're in real estate, right? I believe so.
I am. Yeah.
So what was happening at that time in north of Montreal and northern Quebec, the Brits were rolling in because the currency was 2-1, right? So they were getting real estate at half price, basically, because they're using British pounds and buying with Canadian dollars. And so, projects were selling like hotcakes when we got into the game. And then finally, when we were ready to sell, we had all the marketing ready. We were at a trade show in London, and just a month before, the place was packed. And when I was there, crickets. Nobody was there. I was throwing paper airplanes at the Sotheby's rep. Brutal.
Oh, so brutal. So here's what's so impressive. Like for me, it took me a while to get back on track, but you got on track fast. And I think there's a lot of important lessons there. And I want to, lead this right into the entrepreneur's dilemma that you talk about. But how in the world, psychologically, did you go, wow, I just lost multiple millions of dollars in investments in, the worst real estate crash maybe that we've seen in the last 100 years, that who could have, there was clues, but unless you're right in the middle of it, you probably didn't see them. Like, how did you bounce back that quickly to start something else? Number one. Number two, how did you creatively find the 200,000 to get your next venture going? Because there's a huge lesson in that.
Okay. So if you've done personal development, if you've worked on your mindset, if you hang around people that are winners, if you put yourself in the right position to be looking at opportunities. So personal development, circle of influence, opportunities. You can't sit on your couch for more than 6 months like I did and just, go into the abyss of hell and just wilt away if you're a winner. So that's basically what I'm saying. So I grew up in sports. My brother, again, high achieving athlete. My other brother, high achieving athlete. High achievers all around me. You can't sit down if you're a high achiever, and you've been exposed to that and just wilt away. So that's number one. It's what you expose yourself to. I believe it's the circle of influence you have. And if you've made, so how did I bounce back so quickly? It didn't feel quick. 6 months sitting on your couch thinking you're a loser for 6 months is not that quick. But the key was because I had built a great reputation before that I was able to make the phone calls to get somebody to invest in me and to get somebody to say, hey, this guy can run your operation in Canada. So two things. So great reputation and work ethic and winning attitude. That's basically what it is.
I love it. Great reputation, work ethic, attitude, and being around other successful people. That is a big part of it. No question about it. Like you are the sum of the 5-10 people that you hang around with the most.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to be part of their influence. No
Jim Rohn, Leo. Jim Rohn.
That's right. Be a person of value. So what's this entrepreneur's dilemma? that entrepreneurs, small business owners, maybe someone looking to or starting a side hustle while they still have their job, or maybe they're trying to get on, like, what is this dilemma, and how do we push through, overcome, and conquer this dilemma that, you know, we face?
I believe every entrepreneur goes through this. So, you know, so I'll give you what it means through a story. So when I launched Evo Canada in 2009, it was myself. So I was the first employee, and then we quickly got to 215 employees really quick. So within a year, March 2009, all the way to 2010, which was, that's over a year and a half. So December 2010, I'm sitting at my desk and I'm looking at, so we had 215 employees. We're rocking, you know, we're doing app counts. I forget how many app counts we're doing a month, something like 500, which was amazing. That's new deals that are coming through, which was amazing at the time. And so I'm sitting at my desk and I look at my email box and probably 1,000 unopened emails. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed out of my mind. And I'm like, this sucks. You know, I was dead broke, you know, a year and a half ago. Now I'm riding high again, but I want to quit this business. And I needed help. I needed a coach. I needed somebody to show me what I'm doing wrong, because this is no way to live. I'm working 16-hour days. I can't even keep up with my emails, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so I keep on, you know, typing in my computer, business coach, business mentor, Tony Robbins' name keeps on coming up. And it so happened he had a conference called Business Mastery about 3 weeks later from that point. So it was around my birthday in December that I was looking Tony Robbins in early January. And I'm like, you know what, 10 G's, it's a lot of money for me right now. I'm just getting over my almost bankruptcy, but the heck with that, I'm going for it. So I went. And the first message I learned is that I was the problem, right? So if you're doing everything, if you as the entrepreneur have to have your hand in every single department, you're not a leader at all. And you're not leading people in the right way. So what I learned quickly and through, you know, Tony's, that event, plus Dan Sullivan's strategic coach, I learned that what I call the entrepreneur's dilemma. What you need to do as a leader is hire the right people to run the department, step back and offer coaching, offer guidance, but it's not your job to run it. It's their job to run it. Not only will you develop entrepreneurs within your business, you're going to develop tremendous amount of loyalty because they're actually feeling empowered. So you empower them to do the job. It's not your job. And as soon as I learned that concept, within 3 or 4 months, my email box went from thousands to maybe 30 a day. It was unbelievable. So I cleaned it out. So entrepreneur's dilemma, what is that? It's basically every entrepreneur thinks they need to be the smartest, the best, the brightest in every aspect of their business. But how could it be? How could you be, you know, number one in legal, in finance, in accounting, in customer service, in sales, in every aspect? Just not even feasible. But I had to know everything in every department. And it just didn't work out. But when you hire, so after that event, I came back and I literally fired 3 of my VPs and replaced them all. And my life just got much, much easier. Because if you hire yes men, because you need to be the ego center, you're going to hit that wall.
You can't be the bottleneck. You can't make every decision and grow and scale a business. It reminds me of the time that Henry Ford, original founder of Ford, had his negative article written about him, and he went to court to prove that they were basically saying that he was inept, uneducated, and shouldn't even be able to have this company. So he goes to court, and they're asking him, who was the Secretary of State in 1816, like 100 years ago? And he's like, how does that have anything to do with helping me build my business? But he's like, you know what I do have? I've got 10 people and 10 phones here for someone who's an expert in what you're saying, in accounting. I've got an expert in engines. I've got an expert in marketing. And when I need information, I bring that expert in. I ask them questions. They help me make a good decision. And that's how we built the most successful car company in the world. And that's what you're telling us, right?
Absolutely.
You can't be the smartest person in every aspect of your business. You have someone who's great at sales, someone who's great at operations, that technical person. And then your job is to find those great people, manage, hold them accountable. And that's how you can actually run a successful business and scale it. Now, the next thing you talk about is this lucky formula where you stack the odds in your favor, because there is luck, but there's also odds. It's like, if you're making investment, even if you're a gambler, like if you put enough odds in your favor, your chance for success goes up. Tell us about how we can harness this lucky formula.
Well, look, the formula is basically it's internal mastery plus external mastery plus action equals luck. That's I plus E plus A equals luck. And what does that mean?
Yes.
That means if you master yourself internally, you master your narrative, the stories you tell yourself. You master your language. How do you speak to people? Like Leo, I think your voice is amazing, and you're an awesome podcaster. And I listened to a few of them, and they're awesome, right? So if I tell you how great you are, I tell you how much of a good, a stud in your business you are, chances are you're going to like me, right? And that's going to create positive aura around me. What are your thought process, right? Do you wake up in the morning and do you tell yourself you're a loser, or do you tell yourself you're a fearless leader, right? Do you meditate? Do you pray? Prayer and meditation are very similar, right? So every morning I wake up and I meditate. I have a 21 minute system that I use, and it really gets me focused for the day. I have do you exercise in the morning? Do you drink water in the morning? Do you brush your teeth in the morning? So it's a whole system on how to get your mind focused. And then, so that's all the internal stuff. External, what's your nutrition look like? Do you have a supplement box that looks like that, right? Yeah. Supplementation. How do you speak? We already spoke about language, but your circle of influence is another one. So it's basically 20 points plus action. Now let's get back to circle of influence. If you're hanging around with, 5 people, your average, the 5 people you hang around with are big thinkers. They don't have to be rich, but do they think big? Are they athletes that push themselves? Are they beasts in the weight room? Are they beasts in business? So you have a diverse crew. If I look at my crew is unbelievable right now. And when I learned that, I had to cut a lot of people out, and you just do. So if you're hanging with eagles, you're going to soar like the eagles. If you're hanging with pigeons, you're going to be on the ground, walking around and picking up, dust. So that's what the book talks about. It goes into every aspect of building your mindset, and then every aspect about how do you take action? What do you do? How do you build your leadership skills? And it takes you from A to Z. So that's in a nutshell, that's the book.
Well said, Mark. So, this has been an amazing interview, and I think you've dropped so many value bombs. Your story is inspirational, but you've given us specifics on, how to be part of a great startup and get an exit, or how to be that number one and build from the ground up. A lot of our audience is thinking, how can I learn from Mark? How can I implement and integrate his strategies into my business? How can they connect with you, take action? Because the worst thing that they can do is, hear this great information and not take action. So I want to give them a chance to take action. How can they connect up with you and take that next step?
So the first way is I've got a free quiz, Leo, that I can't wait to see you take. It's called The Lucky Quiz. So you're going to find that. You'll find that at theluckyformula.com/quiz. And it's 20 questions and it's basically multiple choice questions, and it asks you, and it spits out a number. So it gives you a formula from 1 to 100. What's your lucky score? Right. So 1 being not very lucky and 100 being very lucky. And it gives you tips and tricks on how to get luckier. And luck can be switched out with success in my definition. So it's not really lucky going to the craps table and winning. It's doing things that stack the odds in your favor and create luck. Like, for example, telling somebody how great they are. Like, for example, complimenting this person to that person, or saying the right thing, or doing the right thing, or doing a great deed. Anyway, all that stuff that stacks the odds in their favor. So it's theluckyformula/quiz. And then another place you can find me is on Instagram, which is Mr. Lucky Official. So at Mr. Mister Lucky Official. And then Leo, one last place is you can actually get my book, The Lucky Formula, which did launch already, by the way, and it hit bestseller on Amazon, on Wall Street Journal, and USA Today.
Oh my goodness, guys, you got to check this out. theluckyformula.com/quiz. I can't wait. I'm going to take the quiz right now. And obviously the Lucky Formula book. And I love actually how you pointed out that craps, like any business, like any investment, it's putting those odds in your favor. And if you stack the odds and you're disciplined and you keep studying and becoming an expert in your field and getting better, you're going to eventually win. So that's amazing. Mark, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. Again, guys, theluckyformula.com/quiz. Mark, the final word is yours.
Look, here's another thing I'm going to say, especially what's topical right now is Leo. So you gave prices earlier. You said inflation was, I think, 215% or whatever. It's probably, in fact, more than that because the annual inflation rate is way more than the lie CPI that they give us. So what I would suggest that entrepreneurs do right now is educate yourself on money supply, educate yourself on what the Federal Reserve really is, educate yourself on where this is going because you need to be positioned. I think we're in for a turbulent ride. You said that 2007 was the worst crash ever. I think we might be in for a pretty good one, or bad one. So I would educate myself on what's happening with money supply increases and what's happening with inflation, and that'll get you through this period probably unscathed. I think I'm well positioned. Let's see. So anyway, that's my final word.
That's a huge point. That's a huge point. Great piece of advice there, guys. There are some turbulent waters coming, but it's also some of the best opportunities out there. Make sure you have some cash. Make sure you've got some recurring revenue in your business or real estate recurring revenue coming in. Something that can't be necessarily impacted by the market in large, and you're going to come out of this so well. And stick around great people like Mark, and the odds will be in your favor. Mark, thank you for being a guest on the podcast. And guys, we'll see you next time on the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Leo. Thank you very much.
Are you looking for more seven-figure secrets, content, or even how you can launch your own recession-proof business? Then check out sevenfigures.com. That's the digit 7, FIGURES.com, where we share more videos, stories, strategies, funding solutions, entrepreneurial education, and even the secret business type that's recession-proof. Thank you for listening, and if you're finding value in our podcast, please give us a 5-star and invite others to join the club.